I hope you're all ready for a Pokemon meets Cyberpunk game, because that's basically what we're getting. And no, I don't mean Palworld. Pokemon Legends Z-A was just revealed in the Pokemon Presents, and it's a brand new game taking place exclusively in Kalos' Lumiose City. This was pointed out on the website, and by a few more details I'll reveal later. I'm stoked to have been right in predicting that the next Pokemon game would essentially be Pokemon Z, that the next Legends game was going to be in Kalos, and that the next Legend game was likely to take place in the future instead of the past, but boy did I not expect that reveal to come so soon, and packed all in one trailer nonetheless. There's a lot to dissect here, both within the teaser and even on the website, so as to not waste anyone's time, let's hop right into the juicy details. Before we start at the beginning of the trailer, a lot of people have missed this because it came so late, but the Mega symbol pops up at the very end of the trailer. This means not only are we getting a Legends Kalos game, but Mega Evolutions seem to be officially coming back. I know a lot of people have wanted this, myself included. We might even see for ourselves how the Mega timeline started, which would be really cool. Now for the trailer itself. From the very start, we were hinted at that this would be a Legends game. As a sketchbook at the beginning, drawing things for them to come to life is very reminiscent of the first teaser for Pokemon Legends Arceus, which had oil paintings drawn that eventually sprung to life. It's also cool how this blueprint aesthetic remains throughout the entire trailer, signifying to the player that when we start the game, the city won't be this developed, but over time, it will turn into this. It's safe to say that the setting of Legends Z is definitely more modern than Pokemon Legends Arceus, and it does seem to be taking place in the future, as the blueprint aesthetic seen throughout the trailer looks very futuristic. But that's still fairly unclear. It could be that this takes place in the past and is simply more modern than Legends Arceus because Kalos was colonized and developed before Sinnoh ever was and takes place at a similar time, or it might just be that the game takes place at a later point in time but still in the past. Regardless, the wording here is that it's a redevelopment project for Lumiose City, which tells me that Lumiose is already built up in some fashion and we're expanding it. We continue to see many shots of Kalos Pokemon as Pikachu runs through the world, and honestly, this was our biggest sign that this was going to be a Kalos game. One of my favorite scenes is this one here with Dragonair both flying and swimming in and out of the water. We've never seen Pokemon behave this dynamically in a mainline game before, but what's also to note here is the trainer throwing a ball to catch it and missing. This tells us two things. One is that the Legends catching mechanics are definitely back in this Legends game, as the trainer missed his shot at Dragonair just like we would miss shots in Legends Arceus. And this Dragonair flying in what seems to be an infinite loop makes me think of the flying Pokemon in Legends Arceus that acted as a sort of catching mini-game. This Dragonair's flight pattern though seems to be an advanced version of that, and I really love how much more dynamic it is. The next scene shows an eventful battle between two Pokemon being commanded by their trainers. Notice the cool animations for their attacks and how close they get to try and hit each other physically. Now, I know this isn't actual gameplay footage, but let's not forget, Legends Arceus was the first mainline Pokemon game to actually have the Pokemon run up to each other to physically attack. And I do wonder if we actually might get more involved animations like this one in the official game when it comes out. Something like official dodge animations like this one shown here would be really cool. Arceus did a lot to innovate the franchise, so it's not out of the question for Z to innovate it further. Regardless, a cool touch you may have missed in this scene is that not only is the trainer battle happening on screen, but a battle between two wild Pokemon is taking place in the background. Pinsir and Heracross are known to be arch rivals in the wild, so it's definitely fun to see them battling here. But even without that, I wonder if we'll get to see interactions like this while in battles of our own. Maybe even see other trainers battling too. Alright, here's possibly my favorite reveal in the entire trailer, and I haven't seen anyone else talking about this, probably because it's one of the easiest things to miss, but an NPC is walking in the background of the trainer battle, and they're followed by a Crocodile and its family of Sandile. If you recall, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet had NPCs walking around towns and cities, and oftentimes they'd be followed by one partner Pokemon. It was also programmed that we, the player, could have one Pokemon out at a time to follow us. Or conversely, we could take our whole team out for a picnic, but we'd be confined to a small space. In Pokemon Legends Arceus, we could throw our entire team out freehand if we wanted, or just a select few, but they couldn't follow us. What this NPC and her companions tell me is that those two mechanics are finally being merged together. We'll likely be able to throw our Pokemon out freehand, and they'll have a follow command this time around. The fact that there are 5 Pokemon total following her, 4 Sandile and 1 Crocodile, instead of all 6, or even 1, sells me even more on this analysis. The Pokemon Freedom mechanic, as I like to call it, has never looked so good. I also want to point out something else no one is talking about, and that's how much closer these NPCs look to full-bodied humans. Usually, Pokemon stunts character models to fit a more cartoony aesthetic, but these models have more realistic proportions than we've seen in any mainline game to date. I'm a huge fan of this. A nice visual touch to the trailer is Talonflame flying through Onix's coil to head over towards Lumiose Tower. It looks cool, and also makes me wonder if Pokemon will interact with others and the environments to this extent in the final game as well. The Dragonair scene earlier certainly was promising, and as you can see in the shot here, there is a Pokemon clinging to the wall of the building, so we're gonna see them acting in many different ways for sure. Now to explain why I said this game is Pokemon meets Cyberpunk. As seen towards the end of the trailer, nothing outside of the city is rendered. This revelation is supplemented by the website, which states an adventure awaits within Lumiose City. And this is even further supplemented by a tweet Nintendo sent out saying a new adventure set entirely within Lumiose City. Now, I wouldn't get too disheartened by this because when we get a zoom out of the city as a whole, it's worth noting that it's much denser than what we saw in X and Y, and it's actually extremely large. It's quite literally one giant concrete jungle, and its size seems comparable to open worlds found in something like Grand Theft Auto or Cyberpunk. Though, how this will translate to gameplay remains to be seen, since I can't imagine many ways to sneak up on Pokemon in a cityscape alone. They'll have to make good use of parks or something, and I guess we do have some shots of Pokemon crawling on buildings, like this one here that I talked about earlier, so I don't know, maybe there's even more to work with actually. When the map zooms out, we can see it's divided into several sectors, kinda similar to Final Fantasy VII Remake. With these divisions and the redevelopment project built specifically to allow Pokemon to inhabit the city, perhaps they try to create different biomes for each sector. So you'll still get your snow area, your tropical area, etc., and maybe even a few more surprise areas. I also think that having the ability to enter most of, if not every building, can be a huge factor in maintaining a large scale for this game. Build up, not out, right? In which case we might also have an underground area, and maybe an area in the sky, similar to Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. After all, Zygarde is said to reside in a cave, and we see a Talonflame soar freely in the skies during the trailer. But why is the region itself not at our disposal? What in-game lore reason is there to confine us to Lumiose City only? Does this game take place in the past and some catastrophe happened that made the land outside uninhabitable? Is this the future and that happened? Or maybe our main character is just one of the urban planners? Only time will tell, and we can only speculate at this point. Something that would be cool is that we might have some influence on how the city is formed. We might be able to help shape it, and my prediction of this is based on the blueprints aesthetic of the trailer. We had a similar influence in Jubilife Village by helping villagers find partner Pokemon, so maybe we'll see a more realized version of personalizing the city this time around. Now let's talk the title card. Using this title card, we're able to infer several aspects of the game and its story. And honestly, it sounds epic. The name of this game isn't simply Legend Z, it's Legend Z to A. The Z to A is definitely a reference to urban planning, laying out plans on an A to Z fashion, but the focus on Z coming before A both keeps emphasis on Zygarde being our legend area focus here, as well as possibly lending more credit to the theory that this game takes place in the future, where we start from a metaphorical Z in the development department. Now, Zygarde is said to appear when the Kalos ecosystem falls into disarray, and shows his special power, whatever that is. We know that our metaphorical Z in urban planning is a new ecosystem where Pokemon and humans live together in the city. So perhaps we see Zygarde appear because the ecosystem in Kalos has changed dramatically by our urban planning. And the A actually resembles Lumiose Tower, doesn't it? So based on the way this Z to A logo is shown, maybe his secret power is somehow him becoming large enough to wrap around Lumiose Tower the same way that the Z wraps around the A. Zygarde must want to bring Lumiose back from point Z to point A, before any of the development started so as to protect the way the ecosystems were beforehand. This is most likely the skeleton of the story we'll see play out. As we reach the climax of the game and reach Step Z in the urban development, Zygarde will appear to try and bring us back to A. Sounds like a large-scale story if you ask me. The website for Z to A says that this new title is their most ambitious yet, meaning not only can we expect this large-scale story to unfold, but we can also expect plenty of innovation, like we saw in Legends Arceus in the gameplay department. Which brings me to the release date. Pokemon Legends Z to A releases in 2025, and we have no 2024 release for Gamefreak. This will be the first time in, decades, that Gamefreak waited 2 or more years to release new content, and honestly, This is nothing but good news. This means Pokemon Z to A will have more development time, more hands on deck, and with the 2025 release date, it might even be the Switch 2's launch title. Now hear me out. Yes, it seems like there will be a Switch version of this game. However, the fact that we didn't see any gameplay is likely because the Switch 2 hasn't been revealed yet, so Pokemon cannot share gameplay of a Switch 2 title yet. On top of that, the description of the teaser says releasing for Nintendo Switch systems, plural. This could mean Switch 2 and Switch 1, since usually Nintendo doesn't talk about the Switch in plural terms when referring to its Switch 1 models. If Pokemon Z to A is a launch title on Switch 2, then surely that'll help Switch 2 consoles sell. And I think Nintendo knows this. Even if it's a cross-gen launch title similar to Zelda Twilight Princess on Wii and GameCube, or Zelda Breath of the Wild on Switch and Wii U, everyone's gonna want the better quality, more complete version on the shiny new console. This is great news, as it shows Nintendo has greater confidence in Gamefreak's quality this time around, as Legends Arceus was their highest quality product yet, and Gamefreak moving its offices into Nintendo's headquarters allows for a much easier communication and sharing of resources between the two. But what do you think? Do you think this will be a Switch 2 title? Do you think that it takes place in the future, in the past? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and afterwards, feel free to check out more of my videos, like my rundown of all the confirmed leaks for Switch 2. The link for that is right in front of you now. I've been Johto Jonny. Catch you in the next one.